5, 4,
3, 2, 1.
Hi, my name is Daniel Neal. I'm the curator of Troy University Rosa Parks Museum. I'm joined today by our good friend Tim Kerr, artist.
From Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
Hi, y'all.
We've started...
We're the ZZ Top Appreciation.
Tim has brought us a really fantastic exhibition of his visual artwork. It's launched our sort of year of learning and community here at the Rosa Parks Museum in honor of the 60th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. So thanks, Tim.
No, thank you. This is a bigger deal to me than being in the Museum of Modern Art. This is really, really amazing. So,
tell us how you became interested in this portrait work. I think we can see some of it here. Portraits of people who engaged in resistance, people who engaged in struggles for freedom. What was the first sort of thing that got you thinking you wanted to create that kind of art?
Because I've been doing art since elementary school, playing music and art since elementary school, and it always amazes me when people separate that stuff and they just, oh, you're the musician that does art, because it's like, no, it's all coming from the same place. And I always did that stuff. When the band things all started up, 78, 79, everything kind of shifted and it was more music oriented than it was art, though we were still doing lots of art. With the posters and the album covers and things like that, and about that was you're talking 78, 79, so about 10 years ago, there were some people that started asking me to. They knew that I'd done art or I'd done big paintings before, like back 75, 76, right. 77, and asked if I wanted to show in a gallery, and coming from what I'd come from and coming through all these bands and everything, I have the realization that, I've been telling people this last night and a bunch, but somebody can see your glasses, go and buy them in the afternoon because they like them. You just influenced somebody, right. And you didn't even realize. So if I'm going to start putting stuff up on walls for people to see, I want to be some sort of a positive influence, even though that's corny, it's just a fact. And I started at first painting people that influenced me, that were just, like things that I'd heard, like John Coltrane was first. Kind of went that route. I actually painted Rosa Parks pretty early on. Mm-hmm. Probably like, there's a story that my wife Beth tells of, I was trying to I paint on everything but canvas, because why be another painting on canvas? Here's another good painting on canvas. I'd rather do something different, and so I was trying to get the bus map from here, right. Because I wanted to paint Rosa on the bus map, and I wanted to mark where she had gone on and off, and I think pretty sure we called this place up looking right. for the bus map, kind of thing. So, but that's kind of where it all comes from. It's that it's trying to show people that every person that I'm presenting or painting did what they did because it came from here. They didn't do it to be famous, they did it, which means we're all capable, even though we won't realize we did it or not. It's like you can cause, one person can cause the change, so.
Right on.
Does that answer it?
It does.
Does that answer it?
You made me think of something when you said that, and I think about coming through like the early days of independent music. I know your band in Texas, the Big Boys, was a big influence. You were just telling us about some modern incarnations of grunge and
Poison 13.
Poison 13, right? But where is that line? Where is a lot of your work is painted on cardboard or maps or found materials. It's got an immediacy and a passion to it, and yet it's moved. In this instance, it's moved off the streets and into a gallery. Yeah. And the same thing with do-it-yourself music, of independent music. It moves from somebody's bedroom to a garage to a club to the Grammys, right? Do you think about that continuum and that line when you're working on your work, or how that?
No, because I think you'd have to be pretty vain to think that you're gonna, you're gonna be the next. I don't know. I'm not like that at all. I just do what I do. Hopefully my best foot forward. 20 years from now, I can still stand behind it and say, yeah, I did that, instead of saying, yeah, I did that, but
Right.
kind of thing. And it's
Right.
just, it's, as long as you're standing up for yourself, it doesn't really matter where you're presenting it if you're being yourself and
Right.
doing what you stand behind. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so-
No, I mean, just thinking about influence and things that do influence people. I know working in museum spaces and gallery spaces, sometimes people come to the situation with a preloaded idea of what, well, I know what art is, or
Yeah.
I might not know what art is, but I know it when I see it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And one of the things I really appreciate about your work, you do paint on cardboard, you do paint on skateboards, you're pushing that envelope wider to what people might think they know art is,
Yeah, but the people that say they think they know is
Right.
the cool lunchroom table, and that's such a small part of the cafeteria that it's just like, who cares? Why? I mean, it's sad to me that so many people feel like they need to be validated by that cool lunchroom table, instead of, you just created this, you did this piece of music, you had a band, you put a record out. You're validated. You just did
Right.
something. You
Right.
don't need to be on the majors. You don't need to be in the Museum of Modern Art and stuff. Great if it happens, but you don't need to change anything to do that. You don't, you're validated. So it's I don't know, I just think I do what I do, I don't think that I haven't really ever put boundaries on stuff, because I think with especially self-expression, there shouldn't be any boundaries. I mean, it's just, if you already kind of put the barriers up, you're limiting what you might, the possibilities,
right.
what they are and stuff. So it's to each his own, but that's me. That's
Right.
just,
Would you say you're your own toughest critic?
when I say I'm what?
Would you say you're your own toughest critic? Do you challenge yourself in what you're?
I mean, I do things until I like them,
Right.
and then once I like it, then I'm fine with it, kind of deal. I mean, all of self-expression is so subjective that it's really neither here nor there. If somebody, I mean, it's nice when other people like it, and it's great, but
Right.
it's kind of, it's funny because with the music, when a lot of times when you would get a really good review,
Right.
which I stopped reading reviews probably in mid-90s or early 90s or something, because it would be a really great review, but it would still piss you off, because it was like they had such a limited vocabulary on music and what things were coming from, that it was just like, they didn't realize, no, there's Aaron Copland in this, there's John Coltrane in
Right.
this, there's like, it's not just MC5, blah, 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 kind of,
Right.
yeah, so, I
Well,
mean,
I think,
and it's weird too, because you don't want to be like this, you don't want to say, I'm not that sort of a person, but to each his own, it's not.
Well, see, I think that's a really great point. I think it comes through in your work very clearly when you encounter it, you're kind of hit with this this line quality, the color composition, and then you begin to see how much research goes into this, and there are several hundred different personages and different movements, some of the same movement that are represented in this show. How do you, how's your research process? Do you read something
Yeah,
that
I'm kinda
leads you
like,
down that road? And
people will kind of tell me about something, and I'll look it up, find out more, realize, oh man, that's connected to this. Kind of like I was telling somebody yesterday, it's amazing to me. I'll go back to music, but if you had the seed in you to begin with, to start looking for something that wasn't presented to you really easy, like on the radio or things like that, what'd you stop for? Like what happens that You know, we've all got friends like that. You know, music stopped in 1983, Husker Du,
Right.
that kind of thing. I had, the funniest one was I was in the 90s, I was working at the libraries, I was recording all those bands, in bands, and I was working at a stained glass place. Like, there was
Right.
all kinds of stuff going on. And there was one summer where Kathleen, the woman that ran the studio, had these kind of kids come in to kind of help with it. And there was a kid, and this was right when John Spencer was starting to get big, you know, the Nation, God, what were they called? Nation Ulysses, those
Right.
bands were kind of, so if you saw a kid dressed like Gangs and West Side Story, you know, with the suits and everything,
Right.
and you pretty much knew they were probably into like Jonathan Fire Eater or the bands that were happening at that point that were starting to kind of put that style out,
Right.
kind of thing. And one day it's me and this kid, and we start talking. And it got pretty heated because the kid's like telling me, he's making statements. He's probably 20 years old. You know, I'm 59 now, so I was probably, I don't know what, like, you know, late 40s or whatever. And the kid's telling me that there's never going to be any music any better than the Beatles, the Doors, and Led Zeppelin. And I'm trying to tell him about the Makeup and Jonathan Fire Eater and like all these Discord bands and Fugazi and things, and I'm saying it got heated. And then I started laughing, and the kid's kind of like looking at me like, and I said, you know, somebody really ought to be filming this.
Right.
And the kid's kind of looking, I said, because you're telling me what my generation says to your generation, and I'm trying to tell you
Right.
about, you know, so
Right.
it's, you know.
What about the relationship between, I know you said that it all comes from the same place, but can you talk about the relationship between social movements and resistance and music? Like, how do those two ideas kind of coexist? And
Well, because you know, you have, I mean, you obviously have art, music, any of this stuff. You have the ones that are basically doing it to be famous and get rich, and you know, the funniest thing about all of that is if we all knew the secret to how this stuff worked, we'd all be rich. You know,
Right.
there is no, you know, but you also have the people that realize that you can plant a seed, you can say something that might mean something to somebody else or connects with it, and that starts them into
Right.
what they're doing. And I've always gravitated towards that. I've just always...
well, and I mean, I'm looking at it across the way here. You can't see it.
Turn the cameras.
Is Woody Guthrie up here with that famous guitar that says "This machine kills fascists," right?
Yeah.
And the image of Woody Guthrie with that guitar is then connected, in my mind, to those songs of economic disenfranchisement, the Dust Bowl, all the things that Woody was singing about.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think
But
that's
there's been a history of that. That's been going on. You know, Minutemen have that great song about punk rock is folk music or something. I
Right,
think there's some
right.
kind of statement that Mike made, or you know, D. Boone or somebody. Like, it's pretty great. So
Well, I think that's true too. I mean, I grew up. You know, I listened to your band when I was a kid in Birmingham riding a skateboard.
which one? No.
The Big Boys. But
I'll put you on the spot. What was your favorite? No, I'm not gonna.
and you know, we did associate sort of that spirit coming through you guys' music, and a lot of other bands that were around at the same
that's
time.
right.
You know, that if you rejected sort of the normative middle class values of America and said, I'm not really as happy with that idea as I am being an artist or being a thinker or being a creative person. I want to go this other way. That music was music for the people who wanted that self-expression, wanted
Yeah.
that creativity.
Well, that was the whole point too of adding to it. Go start your own band. It was like, okay,
Right.
if you're already starting to like, what kind of thing? It's like, yeah, come on, start your own. That's why everything in here is signed your name here, because it's like, if you look at the bottom of this thing and to see who did this piece of art and you see your name here, it's like, yep, come on, you can do something. You can
Right.
you do art, you can do music, you can design clothes, you can dance, you can write, you can take a photo. I mean, it's just,
Right.
it's endless. So.
Right.
And it's sad when people don't tap into that at some point and do their own self-expression, you know. I mean, once again, to each his own, but you're kind of missing out, you know, because
Right.
there's a lot more going on.
Well, and I think I would say at this point, you mentioned you're pushing middle age there, and
59,
that
proud of it.
you know, there's a very American spirit to what your life's work has been. It's that you will express your voice, and that voice can be an opposition. It can be a voice for freedom. It can be a voice that limits oppression in other people. That's what I think a lot of the images of people you painted are.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's actually what drew me to your work, to have it here at the Rosa Parks Museum.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do in this changing exhibition space. Is there's a lot of facts about the civil rights movement, and there's official histories. I had a guy come in the other day, the pastor that stopped by and said he was tired of these four and no more,
Yeah.
the core group of
Yeah.
civil rights icons. So I think
And he came back.
and he came back to
Came
the
back for
opening the
that,
other night.
which was cool.
But when you see what you've done here, where you've connected the free dairy movement with Sojourner Truth, that you've
Yeah.
drawn a line across humanity, and you've drawn a line for freedom of
Yeah.
expression. Yeah, and that's an amazing quality to what you've done
Well,
here.
I mean, you know, since you could do it, you could do it. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Right.
You know, thank you, but it's like I'm saying, I don't know. It's just, I figure everybody sees like that. I don't know. I don't know what to even. I don't know how to answer that.
I think if everybody saw exactly like
this
that,
is when everybody's starting to turn the channels and stuff. Because they're like, okay, what is this?
what are these guys talking about? If everybody saw it, though, there wouldn't be these voices of opposition, right? We'd have this sort of world of free expression.
Well, you'd hope, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So that's why. I mean, this is kind of what we're talking about, and kind of not. I may be going off on something else, but early on, I had somebody ask me, why don't I paint my history? Like, I've been through a lot of stuff, and how come I don't paint Ian, or why don't I paint, just the stuff I've been through and the
Right.
people. And it kind of took me aback for a minute, but then I started realizing what was going on was that, at least at that point in time, most everybody that was seeing what I was doing, they knew about all of that. I want to show them
Right.
stuff that led up to that, or might have influenced these people, to
Right.
do what they're doing now, instead of just, the same old same. So
As we begin to, just what you said, examine our own life in connection, you might not find a one-to-one relationship with civil rights icons, but in the freedom movement, there's a path around the edges. That's an enjoyable.
Well, there's a thread. There's a thread that's running through it all.
Right.
So, you're talking about Woody Guthrie, but there's also Pete Seeger, who was doing just as much, and
Right.
had on his banjo, this machine encompasses love or something. I
Right,
can't even
that's
remember
right.
what all it had on there.
Now that was an interesting thing we were talking about too on our driving tours, just how much music played into the movement. And Harry Belafonte and the big concert out at City of St. Jude. So I mean, I hear those same connections with your work and independent music and your work in this art.
Oh, cool. I mean, the best compliment I think I ever got, and this was back when I was going to art school, which was there was a woman, like you would have critiques and stuff. And this woman who didn't know I played music, had no idea at all, and she literally says, when she's looking at my stuff, she goes, when I look at your stuff, I hear music. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty
That's
amazing
good,
compliment.
right.
That's cool, kind of thing. So, yeah, I just think it's like I'm saying, the thread runs through it all, and it's I do. I mean, I'm hearing music all the time. I'm seeing stuff all the time.
Right.
You know, I always thought everybody saw things like photos and stuff, you know, constantly. You know, so it's, and I kind of think everybody can. They just need to tune into it to do it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. What about skateboarding? I mean, is that lifestyle of skateboarding and how? You mentioned you were a surfer first.
Yeah, I grew up surfing, and you know, I skated back when Beach Boys were singing what they were singing, and they came out with like clay wheels, and people were taking their roller skates apart and
Right.
putting on you know. But I mean, the wheels were so, you know, if you hit any sort of even little pebble, you were just like pitched over. But I went to when I graduated from high school, I went with a friend to California and surfing, and urethane wheels had just come out. And I was on Huntington Beach Pier, and there's a bank, or there used to be a bank underneath the pier, and I saw these two guys like surfing that bank.
Right.
And I just thought, that's pretty cool. And when I got up to, you know, right after that summer, I went up to Austin, and I couldn't go surfing, you know, every day and stuff, so I just got a board. I actually bought a board when I was in California, and got a board and started skating up there. And you know, that's, I mean, if it really wasn't for skating, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now with you. I mean, Big Boys would have never happened. I don't know what would have happened, you know, because everybody that was involved with that first band all skated.
Right.
And we all, you know, just Biscuit, you know, we could be skating with him out at Pflugerville, and his hair got shorter and shorter and shorter. And here came this new music that was coming. And for me, it was interesting, but I was so much into acoustic music that I didn't necessarily not like it. It was just, I just wasn't kind of something and we all went to Raoul's just to go see what this stuff was about.
Right.
And the thing that I saw right off was that there wasn't a stage anymore. There was a stage, but it's psychologically, there wasn't the barrier anymore. There
Right.
wasn't, the crowd was just as important as the band that was up there playing.
Right.
People are yelling at the back of the, you know, show like, sound asleep, we're sound asleep, you know, and they were just getting as much response as the band was. Everybody in that crowd was either in bands, they were taking photos, they were doing fanzines, they were just doing hook, line, and sinker. I thought this is, music didn't even have anything to do with it. It was just, this is pretty freaking amazing that all these people are doing stuff. How can I be a part of this? What can I do? Kind of thing. And so Chris and I were skating, and Chris played guitar and played, you know, AC/DC, Ted Nugent, basically what Junkyard ended up playing, which is a band he was in
Right.
later. And I played Burt Yanch, you know, John Renborn, John Martin, that kind of type stuff. We flipped a coin to see who was going to play bass.
Right.
Because we were going to just, let's see if we can play Raoul's one time.
Right.
And that's how it got going, you know, kind of thing. So, you know, we were skaters that just started this band up. It wasn't like we're going to do skate rock or something like that. It was just,
Right.
we all skated and we played this music
Right.
kind of thing. And when we went to San Francisco, Beth actually wrote to Thrasher, and Thrasher was a fanzine at the time. It wasn't even a
Right,
magazine
right.
yet. It was like this big folded up paper. And you know, basically we were writing to them not to be in the, because, you know, there wasn't, it's hard for people to comprehend now that back then, you're not going to be on the radio, you're not making money doing this
Right.
stuff. There's no magazines that are going to be writing about you or any kind of stuff like that. And we wrote to Thrasher just to go skating. You say, hey, we're coming to San Francisco, let's go skate. Where do you want to skate at? Come meet us, kind
Right.
of thing. Mofo, Kevin met us, we went skating. Mofo decided he wanted to write an article about us, and it turned into Wild Riders of Boards, which was kind of more of a cartoon.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
he pretty much coined the phrase skate rock, and here
Yeah.
we go. And so we were basically the first skate rock band. So even
Right.
though we weren't, you know, to me, JFA kind of is, because that's how they promoted themselves.
That's
and they're
right.
great. They're a great, great band. And Brian's wonderful. But, you know, we just all skated and played music, you know, kind of.
You know, it's essentially, I mean, I personally believe that there is something to people who like skateboarding. It's there's a freedom to it. There's an independence. It's a challenge. You sort of against the environment, or you against your own skill
Well, it's just
level.
you against yourself.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're not really even against yourself. It's you having fun, and you don't have to worry about the other person that much, other than you have to worry where they are, so you don't like run into them and
Right.
break something. But I
Right.
mean, and it's the same thing with surfing. You know, it's like a lot of those sports that are just kind of a one. You know, I'm sure like running long distances is the
Right.
same sort of thing. It's just this, you know, kind of, I don't know. So
Well, there's a consciousness though too. Like I just read this article that I thought was so amazing that in Afghanistan, under repressive,
oh yeah, the women, they're
the women
girls.
can't ride
Yeah,
bicycles.
the girls are skating. Yeah,
and so
it's
they're
cool.
starting to skate.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking, skating.
Yeah.
And then I read another one. There was somewhere else that had some issues, and a group of skaters from another country came in and built some like street
Yeah.
tricks and things, and people just went nuts for it. You know.
Well, the thing too, you know, Beth
there is
and
a
I,
freedom about
yeah,
it.
and Beth and I kind of realized, like last year, or year before, or something, we started realizing that of all these different groups and like tribes or whatever you want to call them, the skaters, for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, the skaters are the ones that seem to still be doing stuff. Like they're doing
Right.
clothes, they're doing the Burnside things where they're just building their own parks, or
Right.
they're making their own magazines, they're making their own photos, all that kind of type stuff.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's kind of cool that they're, you know, I mean, they definitely want to know about their history and they're looking back, but they're
Right.
not just continually looking back and missing all the stuff that's going on in front of them, and they're still creating things. So it's cool.
That's cool. I noticed there's a guitar here, Tim. I was wondering if we could convince you to
Where'd that come from?
it just magically happen to have a guitar. If you'd play us a song. Now you're playing. You mentioned Bert Jantz. You play old time and Irish music.
I started playing Irish music like 10 years ago, and played button accordion, and which everybody calls the Alzheimer's buster, and got pulled into old time through the people that were playing Irish. Was playing guitar a little bit, but then started to learn banjo and did clawhammer, and don't really play guitar that much anymore. So, but
What kind of tune is this?
making it up. Here
Making
we go.
it up. Tim Kerr.
The end.
Thanks, Tim. Tim's artwork is going to be on display in the exhibition hall of the Rosa Parks Museum through June 19th of 2015. Hope everybody can come out and see it.
See ya.